Aloha, my name is Anna Covert, and I'm coming to you from my battleship here on the beautiful island of Oahu. This week on the Covert Code, the topic is When Qualified Isn't Enough. My very special guest is Gina Riley, executive career coach, international speaker, a Forbes Coach Council member, and also the author of Qualified Isn't Enough. Develop your story, land the interview, win the job, as well as the trademarked creator of the career velocity system, which is making a big splash right now. Gina comes from a deep background of human resources, executive search, and coach strategy. So she helps business professionals of all types pivot in those times of career challenges and really land that next big opportunity. She's also been recognized in many publications for her work in employment and has been also a LinkedIn top voice. So we're very excited to have you here, especially at the beginning of the year. As we know, this is one of those real times when people are out there making New Year's resolutions. And I think at the top of the list for a lot of people is landing that next job. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. You're not wrong. It has gotten very hot in January with job seekers making inquiries about how to make career transitions more smoothly.
Absolutely. So this is wonderful. And I'm so glad to be reconnected because we talked I guess a year ago when you were just working on the book. So it's so exciting. I'm like cheering for you over here on the island and can't wait to read the book. So to get us started, can you give us a little Cliff Notes version of the Gina story and of, how you got to where you are right now and how you knew that this was the time to write this book?
Oh my gosh. It was a burning desire by the time I got to it. And you probably have that same feeling, Anna. So for me, I'm, like you said, HR background, recruitment, training and development, all the things. And I actually, part of my story is I took a 15-year break to raise my two sons. And when I re-entered, I went to work for an executive search firm and I did a lot of their training activities as well. And then I was asked to help people who were experiencing a career transition. And in executive search, a lot of these people are senior, mature professionals over age 40, navigating age bias, navigating old systems for navigating job search, focusing way too much on their resume and not enough on their storytelling. And so when I was asked to take on this project, it took me 2 years, but I started to study and figure out what it takes to make an effective career transition. And spoiler alert, doesn't start with the resume. Then for 4 years, I tested it, calling it career velocity. And by the time I had kind of gotten to that point, I'm like, oh, I got a book to write. I need to birth the baby and share with people my system, my frameworks. This is not a book of tips. It is a book of frameworks.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, yeah, that's exciting. So what is one framework or one part of this? I know it's a long book, or not a long book, but it's a full book. So what is one thing that people who are listening right now should be thinking about first?
Ooh, first, okay, because there's multiple frameworks through the whole book. Every single chapter except for 6 has frameworks. So what people need to think about first is 1, you must develop your unique value proposition. And the way that I've outlined it in the book, it takes 5 chapters to come up with that tell me about yourself narrative. So a lot of times people who are in career transition are told the advice, you need a branding statement, you need an elevator pitch. And yeah, maybe that's true, but I don't agree with those sound bites. What I am helping people do is build up their storytelling from the foundation to explain who they are, why they do what they do, so their strengths and their values align with the skills that motivate them, and then meshed in with their stories of success. So that is what you start with. You must start with your unique value proposition because otherwise you won't be able to explain what you do to people who refer you when you're networking, and certainly not when you're interviewing if you don't have it.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice because I think, being a marketing person, yeah, you can have a soundbite all you want, but then that might get you into the door. But then when you're sitting there in multiple rounds nowadays of interviews, right? It's not like it's not, I mean, that's what I'm hearing at least. I haven't been in an interview in a long time. Well, not for a job. I guess I have. Agency pitches, I guess, is a type of interview. But but what we've seen is there's multiple rounds, right? And different people. And so you have to have a whole story to be able to really keep making sure that statement's resonating, right? Like that you have proof behind the pudding.
Yes, 100%. And what I will say in this part of our conversation is where a lot of people go wrong is they're so worried and concerned about selling themselves that they don't think about the problems that that organization is trying to solve, that they may be the business solution for that problem. So it's a shift into what kind of conversation can we have that helps you understand that I have the toolkit to solve those problems. How are you going to elevate yourself up to being the candidate of choice?
Right. So what are your recommendations on, now another thing that we hear, and I have friends who, in Sweden as well. Like, this is a global phenomenon, right? Of it seems that there's just every job has thousands of applicants now.
Mhm.
Or even not even the upper jobs. It seems like even middle jobs and my first, it's kind of a two-part question. Part one is, why are there so many applicants when there's so many other jobs that are like seeking employment? Or like there's so many industries where there's no one to work, and then there's some, businesses here like marketing or other different types where there's just so many applicants that where is this disconnect happening?
hmm Okay, so to answer the question of the influx of applicants, it's number one, it's too easy to apply. It's called the easy apply button, which is generally the black hole of the whole system. And so most job seekers don't build a strategy and they apply, 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 and then they don't hear back. And then they complain that they're doing something and they're doing something, but they're not networking, they're not building relationships, they haven't built their story. They're just on autopilot because it feels good. It's like a natural,
Hopefully,
dopamine
kind of.
hit,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, to go ahead and apply. So it's too easy to apply. Um, oh, I hit most of those qualifications. I'll go ahead and do it. And what's happening is unqualified people are crowding out qualified people, going through that, navigating through that system. Recruiters are way overwhelmed, way understaffed. We bash on recruiters way too much, but they don't have all the resources they need. And then we have all these AI tools and ATS systems, many that are outdated, that they are using to try to cull out the candidate pool that they're going to contact. So, how do we get around this, Anna? We step away from the spray and pray, apply, 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 ad nauseum, and we make a target list. I use the 2 Hour Job Search by Steve Dalton. Two, when you do that, you're going to build a target list of 40. Three, you're going to cull it down to your top 5 so that you have focus. And then you start networking and you try to get conversations with people at those companies, get referrals, do your research and homework, comment on those people's posts. So you're launching kind of your own mini marketing campaign covertly. Ooh, what did I do there?
I liked it. So, and now here my question is, do these companies that, do they have to be already looking for people? Like, do they have to, or no? And that's, I think that's another part, because I always thought the same thing, it makes me think of one of the strategies that we do for targeting B2B, right? It's like, okay, like who do we want to work with, right? And let's do a FedEx campaign to the people who are in charge, like the CEO, right?
Sure.
Like they're not going to be looking at emails. They're not going to be searching online, right? They're going to be, but FedEx is something that they might open. Like, what is that? How are you going to make yourself stand out, right? So it doesn't have to be that they're even openly looking for people.
Absolutely. I mean, companies are hiring all the time. And
Right.
one aspect that we should probably cover in this regard is what is known as the hidden job market. And the idea of the hidden job market really inflames some people. They get really angry and we start thinking about biased decision making and just only hiring people who are in our own likeness or similar or what have you. But that's not what the hidden job market can be. The hidden job market is when a group of decision makers is sitting around that virtual table and someone says, I'm retiring, I'm going out on medical leave, I'm having a baby, I'm quitting, or we're going to fire Bob, but we don't want to tell anybody yet because we don't want our customers to know. So what is happening is everyone looks at each other first and they say, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Who can we start talking to? Let's reach out to our network. And it's not because they're biased people. It's because naturally they want to fill the job as fast as possible.
Right. And you already know that it's verified. I mean, you don't have the time. I mean, like, and training and there's a lot of risk getting people in and I mean, so you don't want, you want to know someone who already can do it. Right.
Absolutely. And so many companies go ahead and do a launch and a search and the whole thing. But sometimes companies even hire executive search firms at a great cost and still hire an internal candidate because they've gone through a vetting process that leads them to that final decision. So there's all these factors that play into decision making, and the best way for a job seeker to stand out is to make sure they're seen and heard. And getting seen is not the best way through an applicant tracking system and applying online. It's getting human connection. But what I will say is, if you don't clearly know what your unique value proposition is and can say it succinctly, you will lose people's ears and they won't be able to refer you.
Right. How much of personality or personal, storytelling? I mean, I'm talking like, because we know people want to hire people who they like more, right? But there's also now, with what's going on in the government and there's so many things that you can't say, right? Or that we used to be able to talk about that we don't talk about anymore, right? So what is your feeling on the level of when you're going out there and you're networking of how much personal versus professional should there be a mix of?
Oh gosh. Okay. So one thing that I talk and speak and write about a bit is executive presence. And for those who are listening today who are thinking, I'm not an executive, this doesn't apply to me, it does. So let's reframe it as professional presence.
Yep.
There's 3 elements. There's appearance, how we look, communication, how we speak, and gravitas, how we behave and how we act. And my sons who are 23 and 25 can have professional presence as a 70-year-old who's still in the job market, who's interviewing. And first, we need to walk and talk like we're ready for this job. Doesn't mean you're wearing a 3-piece suit. It means that you're suitable, you're ready, you're respectful of like what it is you're aligning towards.
In Hawaii, we call it you're wearing shoes and pants.
I love it.
Not your slippers.
What? I'm like, what do they mean shoes and pants? And so I was like, oh, they mean like slippers and shorts. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, shoes and pants are required.
I love it. Okay, communication is super important. And one element, there's 17 individual aspects of presence. One is reading the room. And when you walk into any given room or a virtual room and you're not reading the players and body language and what's happening and how people are responding to you, that could cause some of your biggest misses. And then gravitas is how we behave and act. And the top 2 things for presence that's the most important are confidence and decisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So back to your point, we want to hire people who we know, like, and trust. Similar probably in your marketing, with your marketing lens, people will buy products that they trust, that they believe will come through for them. And the same is true when we're interviewing. We have to be able to explain without a shadow of a doubt how we can deliver.
Yeah. Wow. And so is there some in your book, is there like a questionnaire or something? Because I think, a lot of times people are good at multiple things, right? So how do you pick the thing that you lead with? Or do you change it depending on what you think that company needs?
Both and. Yeah. Yes. So what I'm doing through the qualified isn't enough, like, kind of layering with my career velocity program is first you're starting with you. I use an assessment called the UMAP profile. In fact, there's a coupon code in the book that the author gave me so people can take it. You get your top 5 strengths from StrengthsFinder, your values, and I use that in relation to what guides your decision making, what's going to make you happy in a job or not. The skills that motivate you and burn you out, and then your personality. And then we're layering in there, what's your leadership approach? So that you can describe, even if you're not you don't have a leadership title, how do you lead people in teams, even from your seat on the bus? How do you influence people and collaborate, right? Mm-hmm. Then we're kind of dissecting the career story and figuring out what those themes and patterns of your career are. And then the 4th step is what I call a career data vault. That is where you have a whole repository, not your resume, a repository of all your key results over time. When you do those 4 sets of frameworks and exercises, you are now left with the opportunity to pick out the stories that will land the best depending on the job that you're interviewing for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Actually, I can't remember where I heard it, but I thought it was a great idea that someone was saying that you should have a folder in your email. And anytime someone sends you at all, like a great job on this project, or, you guys or anything that's about you, go ahead and put it right into that folder, because sometimes we forget, after especially being in a company for a really long time, and then you have this brag box, right? We call it, or where you can like just go and just pull out. Oh, remember, and you can even do it when you want to ask for a raise. Do you remember when I did these things this year? Look at the, like make yourself a pitch deck of all the great things you've done, and not just from your own words, but from others, your peers' words.
Absolutely. I call it the kudos file.
Kudos
Same
file,
thing.
okay.
Yeah, kudos file. And yeah, you want to accumulate those and keep them over time because it also helps remind you. I'm working with people who have been laid off from their companies after 20, 25 years. They can't remember some of these stories.
Right.
And a lot of the breadcrumb trails are in our performance reviews. Those are the key results that we delivered on and what we get rewarded for. But a lot of times people forget what they were even doing, and they're going back and trying to recoup it. And they're full of a lot of despair because it's an overwhelming task.
Right. Well, I mean, that's one of the things that led the GDRP in Europe to say that that is your personal right as an employee to be able to go back to an employer and say, I want everything you have on me. Right. The
Yeah,
subject right request. Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. But of course, yeah.
What some of my clients are doing right now is they're going back and they're meeting with counterparts that are still at the company and or have left as well, been laid off. And they're saying, can you help remind me about how awesome I was? Like, don't, not like, oh, you're a really great gal, but, and you remember the things that when we worked together were really effective. What would you come to me for because of your experience with me? That's the juice that we need from those peers if we can't figure it out ourselves.
And what do you think? So there's this big layoff happening because of age, but then there's like they're overqualified and there's people who are underqualified. And is AI to blame for this, or what is happening out there?
Well, I can't account for like all the things happening in the economy and the business environment. People can kind of do their own reading and hypothesis, but companies are trying to showcase that they're profitable, and they're cutting people in order to, have better business returns, we'll say. And some of these companies long needed to slim down and are running fat as well. Now, is there a wave of older workers in these layoffs? For sure. And by the way, being old is, according to the law, is people 40 and older. So people who are
40 and older.
yeah, that's by the law. That's one of the 7 to 9 classifications of being discriminated against, like
Really?
race and disability, etc. And age is 40 and above. So whatever, I'm 56 and I'm like, I don't feel like I'm old, but I could get discriminated against based on how I appear or my long resume, right? So, yes, older workers are facing age discrimination and bias for sure. And the way to combat that is to make sure that you're the sharp tool that they need in their toolbox right now. And so it's all about context and relevancy.
Yeah. Well, it's like the it's almost like the Akashic records of the company, right? It's like if you have Bill, he may not know how to use AI, but he remembers all the different things that have happened, right? And I think that is a something that we forget about too, right? Where it's like, well, we might have taken this direction and it didn't go well. Well, does anyone remember why? Right. And
Right. That's where we get tribal knowledge and where people who have been around a while have a very strong value. I would say that Bill with the tribal knowledge needs to continue to prove why that's valuable, or else it's easy to dismiss.
right, because it didn't work then, and there's new, yeah, I mean, things are changing all the time, right? And and now as we live a lot longer, I work with a lot of a couple companies here, and it's aging. It's about homes, like home care, or arcs for people, for elderly people in Hawaii. Even though we're such a small location, compared to other places, we have one of the largest aging communities. So they're, because people live longer, I guess, here than they do in other
Happy
places.
and healthy there in Hawaii.
Yeah, I was shocked because I mean we only have like a little over 2 million people here, in all the islands. So I was like, how could that be? But I guess per capita and whatnot, it's a case. But I think the same thing is true if people are living longer. Do you see any kind of trends of people like not wanting to, they want to stay at work longer? Is it because of social security not being enough? Are there any other trends here of kind of like that people used to be retiring earlier and now they're not, and that might be a reason for some of this you know?
I would say everything you're saying, yes. I mean, people also are living longer and healthier and they want to contribute. And it doesn't always mean I'm going into another corporate job now that mid 60s and I'm going to go into another corporate or big job. Sometimes it's like they want to scale back and contribute. And sometimes it's even hard to sell that because you're selling your solution to an audience that is younger, will have bias about age, and you need to explain why you're okay taking maybe a lesser salary and a smaller scope because your lifestyle is different. You want to hang out with your grandkids at that point, et cetera. And I've worked with people like that too, who are like trying to explain how they fit in the ecosystem, even though they were an executive director managing a $4 billion budget, why would you want to take this job? Well, because I want to contribute and I have something to contribute.
Yeah. So I think, what out there right now, when we just think about the types of jobs that there are, and how many people are changing their career path. I mean, are you seeing that most people are, when they want to make a change, is it they're kind of tired of what they're doing, or is it more that, and they want to try something new, and then they're not really sure because they're afraid because they don't know if they can do it, or is it more that, they're looking for the same type of job and there's just not that much around because of this oversaturation? Is it like a combination? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit the whole list of. There's probably even more on that list. It's all those things. People are making job changes because they got laid off, and they're surprised, and now they're going to try to find something similar, but maybe the job market looks different. The job titles are different. The scope is different. It's not the same language anymore. It could be, I've done this one thing for 20 years and I need a change. And sometimes a big pivot, like let's say I'm a corporate employee and I want to go into a nonprofit and I have it in my mind, I want to do my give back part of my career. Well, that's a really challenging pivot. It's really tough to go from corporate to nonprofit, translate the business language, explain your value, and look into the faces of decision makers. And I'm talking about a board of directors and a leadership team saying, where have you been all these years? Why do we think you're passionate about our cause? There is a lot to overcome. And I've helped people do that. And I've helped people go from nonprofit to a corporate role where they started to maximize a bigger upside for themselves and make a heck of a lot more money, but take that business expertise as a CEO of a nonprofit and then convert that expertise into something that helped a corporation.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what are you most excited about for the future of, I guess, there's a lot of turmoil going on, but what are things are you excited about, and how can we apply that to people who are listening right now and things that they could look at? I really like the idea of starting to join communities and trying to get yourself seen and heard. What are some of the ways they can do that, now? I mean, is it online communities, or do they have to actually join a board? Like, what do you see? What do you recommend?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of juice in what you just asked me. So I want to talk about two things. One is, what should people be doing moving forward to get seen and to build community? And my answer to that is thought leadership. I talk about that in chapter 9 of my book. And thought leadership is not about aiming for a TEDx stage. Thought leadership is about making sure that that you are seen and heard in relevant circles to your field and industry, so that people see you as someone who has content expertise, even if you don't know everything about that thing. As long as you're creating what we call a water cooler, you and I are probably old enough to know what that water cooler is. You're creating that water cooler conversation around you. What am I most excited for? Well, a lot of my resume writing and career coaching friends and people that I follow and am friends with in my larger community, we're kind of excited to see the cycle go back to being at, the job seekers market. And what will AI do right now a lot of jobs are just absolutely collapsing and people are being let go. And for a lot of different reasons, it can't all be AI, but what will AI enable for the jobs of the future that will give people a new hope and new skills and, new things to be doing? So I think that's the other part of that answer I would give you.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, especially, both being writers, I never even used AI until last year, right? And I was pretty, I'll say, against it. I mean, I'm not against it, but like as a writer, like I'm like, oh no, no, no. Like I enjoy writing things, I like to write. Like I wrote all my
you're good
that's
at
of course. and I wrote my own book, and I like to write. And like when I would write ad copy, I would go dark, and and then the first 30 minutes that you write is just junk. It's what everyone else would think of. And then the ideas start to emerge in the voice of the brand and the copy. And it's a magical experience, right? And not everyone, it's, everyone can be taught how to do it. I think maybe not everyone is great at it, but it was something when you're done with it, it was like this really amazing feeling that you've like, created something, right? As a creator, right? And then when I saw how good AI was at it, I'm like, oh, wow, like this is, it's so good at it, right?
Yeah.
But now I think that my feelings are a lot different. It's like I feel like it's my superhero sidekick, that it's only as good as the content or the prompts you give it. Right.
Mhm.
And now the time savings of doing these things that no one wanted to do, to your point, like, oh, like, sure, there's a huge shift, but do those people really want those jobs at all anyway? Or is it kind of what they had to do? And now they get a chance to do something else. I mean, I was just talking about this with a friend. I think I mentioned on my last pod too for my listeners, but there was a cartoon. It was really funny. And it was a woman, and she was like washing clothes, and she was like, on the ground. You can see there's a vacuum in the background, and there's a sign that comes up, and she's like sweating, and and it's like, do you know AI is going to take your job? And she goes, when?
Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just laugh because I think that that's the way it really feels, that, and then I guess another part of it is, what do we tell our kids? I've got an 11-year-old, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's one thing of like, okay, we used to tell kids to be coders. We used to tell them to be in finance. Then we used to tell them to be coders. That's a safe job. Then we told them to be, and so now it's like, well, even like legal professions, even data review. I mean, all these things are kind of, no one's safe, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what, I'm super proud of my 23-year-old. He just graduated from college just this past year, mechanical engineering degree, and I'm getting to see
wow.
what comes to life when you've gone to school and trained yourself to do something that's physical.
Yeah.
Because yes, the machines are doing work for him, but he's really great at 3D printing, and he's got a contract job right now, or he's offering a solution to a company that has a pretty nasty little problem that's costing them money. And so he's 3D printing in his bedroom and designing. That's a real thing.
Yes.
Right. So we do need to, I'm in the same boat as you, just a little ahead with their ages. We have to help guide our kids of the future into things that will add value to our communities, and not just be like, oh, this feels really good, to do. I just want to go. I mean, I'm seeing copywriters, marketeers, all kinds of different, like you said, fields that are collapsing, and people can't find work, and they're just like on LinkedIn complaining. I'm like, hello, you got to reinvent yourself. I know
Yeah.
it hurts.
And actually, in fact, the right people who have English degrees and writing, they're some of the ones that can be best at adapting to AI, because it is about clear instructions and prompting.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. And so, the more prompts, so I'll even do it with clients on the phone now, like, I'll screen share it. I'll be like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're trying to do. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
write out like a creative brief for the AI, and be nice to your AI, everyone out there. Because when, me and my AI are like this now, and I'm like, we have a new project to do today. And it's like, let's go. We can do it.
Let's do it. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, we're going to crush it. And AI's like, yeah, let's go. But then you get a lot better copy, and you have to give it thumbs up. And just like when you listen to Pandora, remember at the beginning of Pandora, like you might want to listen to like smooth jazz, and it's going great, and you forget about it. And then all of a sudden one song gets in there that it's a little different. It might be like, a little techno-y, and you don't thumb it down. And now before you know it, you're listening to drum and bass, and you're like, whoa, what happened? Right. So it's the same thing with the AI. You like really have to.
It's training.
Yeah, train it, give the thumbs up, give it the thumbs down, like make sure that you are helping it guide it, because then it can really become like a super kick sidekick.
Absolutely. I mean, my one of my favorite ways to use AI is for in chapter 8, I write about interview prep, and I created something called the Rare Interview Prep Candidate Framework. And when I was first writing the book, AI was still just percolating for the masses. So, I leveraged AI, but I wasn't using AI as strongly as I do now, a whole year later.
Yeah.
And now I'm able to create, I'm working with a CEO right now. He's got 2 different opportunities going, and I'm able to create these. I've created a 40-something page interview prep packet that includes market analysis, for him, macro and micro stuff, who all the competitors are, full tables about all the competitive things that he should be thinking about. Now, I'm not studying all that. I'm just using AI to create the package.
Yeah.
It's on him to go make sure, validate it all. You know, if it's bad data, I'm like, if it's bad data, don't use it. But and then I convert all of the bullets into behavioral questions. Then they go write all their stories out. Then we go through them and refine them. Then we use it for analysis and research on all the key stakeholders who are going to be in those interviews.
Wow.
You know, I can come up with a packet that's 30 to 50 pages long.
Have you ever used the AI to actually do an interview with someone?
No, and
I know you could do it, but for some people who don't have someone like you, actually you can actually ask. You can ask AI. You can be like, this is the job. Like, I have a friend who does it.
oh yeah,
This is what I'm applying for. And this is, you still have to feed it the information, but ask me
Yeah.
questions and I'm going to reply to you so you can practice. Like,
oh yeah.
I
And there's companies that have like the video, all the things, and I don't even know what they all are because really I'm about the human experience, and I'm working with leaders who have to get interviewed by humans. And yes, I have had some people have to go through video interviews. That's a whole nother topic. But for me, I think when people hire me, they're hiring me for my discernment and my honesty about how they're even showing up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if they're rambling, it's the first line in my book is I interviewed a CEO candidate. I told him, you have 5 minutes to tell me about yourself. I have 60 minutes total to ask you 8 skill-based questions. I need your help to, moderate the time. And he was talking 20 minutes later about tell me about yourself. That's the first line in my book. And yes, your reaction is exactly what I want my readers to think is like, oh, poop. I hope I'm not doing that in my interviews.
Well, yeah, I think that, when you actually start to do public speaking, you realize how long a minute really is. A minute is pretty long. I mean, like if you ever stood up and, I know we do it all the time, but if you think about, you start a clock and you're doing you can say a lot in a minute. Well, nothing at all, right?
Or you can say a lot with nothing in it. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So what I'm all about is being succinct and saying the right things to the right people and reading the room while you're doing it. And there's things that we can do about speaking that help elevate how we land. I'm also a speaker coach within the Speaker Skills Academy. And what we do is we do micro drills as a part of our community. And so there's things that we can do, like how we pause, how we make a point, not talking too fast, using, moderating our tone. And
I remember, I you said that I had a woman once when I was first starting. I've always been a fast talker and try to really like slow it down when I'm doing public speaking. And she came up to me and she said, "Remember what politicians do." She's like, "They want you to hang on every word." And I was like, "Oh," and I was like, and it really like, boom. I was like, "Oh," makes sense.
so good.
Yeah. And when she said it like that, I thought, that's it. So I totally
So good. Because I have a speaker drill that I've done for our community on pausing. And that was like the whole drill is I was, we had people in the Zoom room and we were practicing when and how to pause with these different activities. And I like that notion. I might need to pull that into my drill.
do it because and then you watch the news and you realize that that's what they're doing because everyone's like, what is he going to say? What is he going to say? What is he going to say? Or she,
Well, it's true. And one thing on it that we women do in particular is we have a tendency to speak too fast.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And then we get nervous or excited and our voice raises like the pitch or tone.
Mhm.
And then we're speaking too fast and that diminishes our executive presence, the perception of trustworthiness and people buying into like what we have to say. I've had some clients who have had literally squeaky voices and I've sent them off to go get some voice training from singing coaches to bring the voice tone down and to slow their rate of speech.
Yes. Yep.
Super important.
It's super important. Well, I guess the last question here is for those, I guess, who are out there thinking, because it's depressing when this is the number one thing you do. It's such an important part of of our lives is what we do and how we show up and feeling good every morning when they get up, So what do you think for people who are questioning, is this the right time to make a move with, all the uncertainty out there? What is your recommendation to them?
Um, First of all, I think having a tribe of people, a group of mentors, job seeking group, and you don't have to pay for that. Like you build a little team of people that you can, that can pump you up. But I love having mentors and sponsors and advisors. And I like having different people on that team. I call it like your personal board of directors. Can you come up with like 3 people that have different lenses on the market and from their own work expertise? I'm an HR leader by, background. I don't want 3 HR people on my BOD. I want to have like maybe somebody with a lens in finance, which is not my strong suit, or operations leadership, like, or industry, so build a tribe, and a support system, and go back to basics with frameworks to build your job search strategy. If you're using Easy Apply, you are not doing the right things.
Right. Bottom line. And I think, LinkedIn is a great place to start, really I see a lot of people, one of my recommendations is like, I see a lot of people just like, if you're gonna be on LinkedIn, if you want to like something, fine. But if you're going to write a comment, make that comment something that people are going to it's going to be something meaningful. Right. Not, oh, what a wonderful sweater, or, oh, way to go. Sometimes you can do those depending on who you are, what the reason you're reaching out for is. But if you're trying to stand out, take that opportunity to reframe what they wrote and make it relevant for you and your vision or your voice.
100%. And LinkedIn right now is rewarding healthy, hearty comments. So, one of my LinkedIn posts may get, X number of views, comments, etc. One of my actual comments on someone else's post, especially somebody who's more of an influencer, can get a lot of mileage. So you can get eyeballs on that comment and people will be seeing you as a part of the conversation. Back to the water cooler.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Well, congratulations on your book. Are you going to be doing any book tours? Are you going to, what's next? Is there any kind of online communities people can get involved in? How can people find you and learn more?
We will see about book tours. I was very excited. This feeling. So I never thought I would see my book in a bookstore. Like it's all online, everything online. And I'm in Powell's Books in downtown Portland, and it's the largest, like privately owned bookstore, at least west of the Mississippi, but maybe in the country. And it was on the shelf. My friend saw it and sent me a picture. So I drove over there and got video. But I'm mostly doing job seeker like webinars and in-person like sessions, workshops and stuff to help people use some of the frameworks and kind of give them kickstarts. So that's kind of that. I guess that's sort of book promotion.
Could ask me if you can do a book signing down there.
In my next event coming up, I will be taking a box of books and my purple pen on brand to sign if you want to buy them.
Excellent. Well, that is so exciting. Well, thank you so much for being here. And to all my listeners, please join me next week as I interview another industry expert in topics to help you succeed on and offline. Big mahalo. We just reached 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And it is because of you and your aloha. I am so humbled and grateful for all the support. If you have not yet, please subscribe to this channel and share this content with your friends and family so I can continue to get great guests like Gina on to share their vision and stories with us. And I hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you in the pixels. Aloha. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Covert Code Podcast. If you're loving the insights we share here, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more digital innovators like you. Share this episode with your friends and colleagues on social media and help spread the word. And if you're in the solar space or just curious about where clean energy is headed, I'm thrilled to announce my brand new podcast, The Solar Coaster. This show digs into the real stories, trends, and challenges of the solar industry, with bold conversations and powerful takeaways you won't hear anywhere else. Follow the Solar Coaster now so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the pixels. Aloha.